Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio. Brought to you by OnPay, Atlanta's new standard in payroll. Now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Atlanta Business Radio, and this is going to be a good one. But before we get started, it's important to recognize our sponsor, OnPay. Without them, we couldn't be sharing these important stories. Today on Atlanta Business Radio, we have Charles Potts, EVP and Chief Innovation Officer with the Independent Community Bankers of America. Welcome.
Thank you, Lee. Thanks for having me today.
Well, before we get too far into things, can you tell us about ICBA? How you serving folks?
Yeah, so ICBA, Independent Community Bankers, is the National Trade Association and advocacy organization solely focused on community banks. Our primary mission based around that advocacy. So as you can imagine, given our nearly 95 years of history, we spend a lot of time lobbying on Capitol Hill, based in D.C. Our legislative outreach and regulatory engagement is a key part of our history. We've also built an education arm that does hundreds of training courses every year with thousands of bankers, keeping them up to speed on all the regulatory matters, all the compliance, polishing their skills and certification from marketing to risk management to lending. And then the third part of our organization, the third pillar, is really our innovation arm. And I have the pleasure of running an important part of our innovation initiatives where we really look to find ways to help our community banks continue to flourish and have the kinds of tools and services and innovative approaches they need to better serve their customers and communities.
Now, for the layperson who maybe doesn't know the difference between a bank and a community bank, can you explain, like, how does I call them a stadium bank, a bank that would appear on a stadium, be different than a community bank?
Well, look, let me just say that community banks, the thousands of them around the United States, have been here for hundreds of years and are really deeply entrenched in their local communities. These have a very local community presence. A lot of the deposits that they gather are loaned back into these communities. Community banks are where almost 2/3 of all small business lending takes place. Over 80% of agricultural lending comes out of community banks. They tend to be in the more rural, suburban areas where there is a strong community presence and a strong demand for the kinds of personalized products and services that these bankers can provide. You would be amazed to see the economic development engine that is really driven by community banks around the country. If you think back to the PPP program, an overwhelming majority of small businesses were served by community banks. I think the numbers are, they did more loans in general to small business America, and that is where they play.
Now, is their target primarily the small business owner? Is it the people that live in the community? Like, who is an ideal customer for a community bank?
Well, oftentimes that is one and the same. So if you think about the small business owner and then their employees, they are all part of that community. And so the community bank is there to really meet the needs of all of those constituencies in that community. So it's not only the commercial lending to the business, the business loans itself, but it's then servicing the individuals as consumers with their own retail banking needs as well.
Now, when you talk about those retail banking needs, is a customer going to get kind of a similar experience in terms of all the amenities that are out there in terms of an app, and I can make deposits easy. I don't have to physically go into the bank. Am I getting all of those things? And I'm just...
That is That Lee is exactly why we have this innovation arm, and that is to ensure that we have solution providers out there who are able to deliver those kinds of products and technology needs to the community banks to ensure that their customers, whether it's a consumer or a small business or a commercial enterprise, have at their disposal the same capabilities as any large international global bank or fintech provider. And we believe in this day and time, and it really is fundamental to the work that we do. We believe, we know, we have seen in action that those solutions exist, and community banks are able to deliver similar services from a technology standpoint. And then the huge differentiator is really the personal relationship. We like to call it high tech meets high touch, because, frankly, you're going to, if you're in a local community, you're going to know who runs, owns, and operates that bank. And so you not only have the advantage of the modern technology, but you have the force multiplier of actually knowing who you're banking with.
And then for a small business owner, having that kind of personal relationship with a banker could make or break that business, where I think a lot of small business owners, I don't think they're appreciating the importance of that type of a relationship where the person knows who you are, as opposed to you're just a line on a spreadsheet in some of these mega banks.
Well, look, again, the numbers don't lie from PPP. The heroic work that community banks did all over this country still should be applauded by everybody. And the soundbite I heard from a number of business owners, some are close personal friends of mine, and I was one of them in a previous life as well, an entrepreneur who built my own businesses. The thing that stood out was this quote: I learned that I needed to be doing business with a banker, not just a bank.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Differentiator.
Yeah. I just don't think people understand the level of, I don't even want to call it customer service. It's a level of relationship that you can have.
Look, these bankers, these banks are the centerpiece of many of these communities. And so all of these people in these communities, their kids are going to school together. They're at Friday night football games. They're going to the PTA and the Rotary. They're seeing people, on Sunday or Saturdays at their places of worship. They're buying and shopping from one another. I mean, they are personally connected at a very deep level, and that is a very empowering thing when you're considering your financial service needs and knowing where your money's going, who's taking care of it, and how it's being used to strengthen that community.
So what is kind of the health of the industry? Is it something that is growing? Is it, you hear a lot about consolidation in banking. Like what is kind of the landscape for the community banks?
You look into those numbers, the trends are still showing a very healthy, strong, and resilient community bank marketplace. And where some of the quote unquote consolidation is happening tends to be at your larger regional, super regional banks out there in general. But it is a very healthy industry. There are some 4,500 community banks plus or minus out there, and that is still a very strong and resilient reflection of the strength of our small business economy and where job growth really takes place. And this as well, given what you do. I mean, small business America is the economic engine that creates jobs, and community banks are the ones fueling that growth with small business America.
Now, as part of your role in the association, maybe not yours individually, but the association as a whole, is sharing best practices among the bankers so they can quickly iterate and learn from what's happening well elsewhere?
Yeah. Yeah. And, kind of going back, if you think about the three pillars of our organization, advocacy, which is the core, kind of lobbying stuff. But between education and innovation, we spend a lot of time. We have a lot of our activities oriented to really help educate, coach, mentor, nurture our bankers in best practices, whether it's purely educational in terms of lending and compliance, or marketing, or even running the bank directors' education as well. Or on the innovation side, how digital transformation works, how this journey takes place, the best way to handle third-party risk management and vendor due diligence. We have a lot of our focus around making sure that we elevate the game, if you will, elevate the experiences and knowledge and expertise of all of our bankers.
Now, what advice would you give an entrepreneur to take advantage and build a better relationship with their community banker?
The number one thing for an entrepreneur when dealing with a community bank is to listen, ask good questions, and listen. You're going to find community bankers will give you time. They will give you their insights. They will give you their experiences and knowledge to help your business, help your product, solution, service, whatever it may be better. And the discovery side of entrepreneurism and innovation of starting, a new business is critically important. You got to go out there and talk to bankers. You got to ask them questions, and you got to be a really good listener, because they will tell you what they need. They will tell you what their problems and issues and concerns are. They will tell you how products and services need to work properly, to work inside the framework of the typical community bank. They will tell you exactly how things need to work in order to satisfy the kind of small business operation that is typically a community bank.
Now, what's on your roadmap in terms of innovation for the community banks? Or is there any emerging technologies that we should be aware of?
Well, I would say that our innovation initiatives and the programs that we run, the crown jewel of which is something we call the ICBA Think Tech Accelerator, are designed to help find solution companies, really early stage companies that are addressing very specific problems to your question. And our bankers really drive that process for us. They help inform us of what are those concerns. And look, cybersecurity continues to be at the top of that list. It only gets bigger and more complex, and it is a constant investment that banks are making to address those needs. Risk and compliance management in general is always top of mind with bankers, and irrespective of what's going on, either technologically or economically, those are very important practices that banks are looking to always improve upon, make more efficient and more effective. And right now, I have to say laughingly in the year 2024, who thought check fraud would be a hot topic again? But here it is. We're seeing a resurgence of check fraud. And so the banks are paying very much close attention to it and looking to find new solutions to help, mitigate some of the risks associated with that and address this growing volume. And then in general, we try to avoid, dragging a bunch of shiny objects in front of the bankers. We tend to focus more on very targeted solutions to very targeted problems. But the whole field of artificial intelligence in general has a lot of promise in terms of the types of tools that are in that bucket of things that we call artificial intelligence, that can actually help with a number of things we talked about, whether it's risk and compliance, whether it's check fraud, or it's how do I make my bank more efficient? How do I automate more of those redundant, repetitive, labor-intense tasks to make my people more efficient and effective and more valuable in what they're doing? Those are the things that are very much top of mind. Probably laying over the top of this subject is really the data and analytics side of banking, and how do I acquire, access, manage, manipulate, and then analyze and deploy sound and prudent activities with the data I have available to me. How do I make my bank better? How do I provide better services to my customers, leveraging data and analytics, and things such as again, fraud detection and risk and compliance management.
Now, is there any strategies or tips you can share for the community bankers right now in order for them to be successful in growing in today's digital landscape?
Yeah, look, we spend a lot of time with this topic and talking to bankers on a national level or grassroots through some of our state association partners, or through our educational webinars and so forth. And really the short answer is get started. There are a wealth of resources that we've made available inside ICBA that help the banks start to navigate this landscape wherever they're at on that journey. We have some very sharp, very progressive banks at one end of the spectrum. We have a lot of banks that are still following and learning and dipping their toe into the water, so to speak. And we try to make available to them a continuum of resources to help them on this journey. Come participate in our ICBA Think Tech Accelerator programs. This is a way for them to see the way these companies think and work and how they are working to solve problems that community banks have. And then, and then work through your state association and the innovation initiatives that they're offering and taking on. This ecosystem that we're continuing to foster is very collaborative in nature. And so we know that there are a wealth of resources that can help banks of all shapes and sizes really navigate what oftentimes can be a daunting landscape.
Now, where can people go if they want to learn more about ICBA or your innovation efforts? Connect with you, connect with the association?
Yep. Start on our website, icba.org/innovation. That'll give you access to all of our programs, all of our resources. It'll help you get started on how to find us, how to find our calendar of activities and events that are going on. We're getting ready here in a few weeks to launch our 7th accelerator program, which is very exciting. We've got another cohort of 6 companies that we will be taking through our 10-week program. And banks can participate in this program, and they can find a way to sign up through our website. And we'd love for them to come see what we're doing, see what these companies are doing, and frankly, give us the feedback and guidance that we know is critically important to make sure we're addressing their needs.
Well, Charles, thank you so much for sharing your story today. You're doing such important work, and we appreciate you.
Lee, I appreciate the time to talk to your audience, and thank you for doing this.
All right, this is Lee Cantor. We'll see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio.